Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all. First of all, just a message here if you are a member of the media and would like to ask a question, we'll try to get to those at the end of the conversation. If you're a member of the media, please identify yourself in the comments and feel free to ask your question, and we'll try to get to it, like I said, at the end of this Facebook Live event, addressing and talking about the situation in Ukraine and Russia and how that will affect Americans. I have a list of questions I'm prepared to address. We will start here with what impact will the Russian invasion of Ukraine have on gas prices globally and in the U.S.? Well, first and foremost, the price of oil took a big jump up today, which is hardly unexpected. Earlier this morning, the price of oil had jumped as much as 8%. But by the end of the day, the price of oil had faded down to about a $2 a barrel increase. So things slowed down throughout the day. The wholesale price of gasoline also started up about 16 cents a gallon, but closed the day in many areas up about 10 cents or even 8 cents a gallon. What that means is that when the market closes, we already have seen many racks or terminals where gas tanker trucks, fuel tanker trucks fill up, have already raised their price to reflect today's higher costs. So in theory, as early as, now gas stations are raising their prices to reflect the increase in cost. And so Americans could be paying the higher price because of Russia's incursion as early as right now. The increase will likely play out over the course of the next several days as stations are filling up with the pricier fuel. They likely will slowly raise their prices over the next 1 to 2 weeks. Now, because the increase was not as severe as the day started, the national average could rise 5 to 15 cents a gallon over the next 1 to 2 weeks. And of course, as the situation continues to escalate, the primary risk in this situation is Russia's oil flow. It is the second largest, borderline third largest oil producer globally. And so what happens in Russia could have a profound impact in terms of energy availability and price. So the primary impact is on Americans' wallets. They will be paying more at the pump, evenly distributed across much of the country. California's average gas price will likely eclipse $5 a gallon in the next few weeks. The national average has the potential to eventually rise to $4 a gallon. The national average today stands at $3.55 a gallon. Most states will see prices go up by anywhere from 5 to 10 cents a gallon over the next 1 to 2 weeks. And like I said, that impact may be more significant should the situation continue to escalate in the days ahead. The situation, the next question, how has the situation changed now that Russia has attacked Ukraine? What does this most recent development mean compared to previous forecasts? Well, obviously the situation has taken a grave turn. This was not necessarily a shock given the headlines that were coming out of the White House that this was anticipated. But now that Russia has attacked Ukraine, the situation escalates. We saw President Biden earlier this afternoon talking about sanctions on Russia, what that looks like, and now a further escalation in response to Russia's attack on Ukraine. This sets off a chain of events that could likely continue to increase the pace and the temperature of the situation. So it's more likely there is additional risk that eventually this will escalate into a potential disruption of the flow of oil from Russia. That's the primary concern here, is that Russia holds a significant portion of global oil production in its hands. Should the situation escalate, it's not impossible that Russia may use oil as a weapon. The backdrop to that being that Russia already used natural gas as a weapon last fall. The Germans delayed the approval of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which caused Russia to immediately curtail and eliminate temporarily natural gas shipments to Europe. So this is the concern, is that potentially Russia could retaliate by limiting oil exports, much as it did limiting natural gas supplies to Germany and much of Europe as a result of that Nord Stream 2 controversy. Now, the Germans have said that for the immediate future, Nord Stream 2 is no longer going to be certified. Russia does have the key potential that it could curb flow of natural gas to much of Europe, and that natural gas is necessary, and it could cause a boost to natural gas prices here in the U.S. So This has obviously had a profound impact on our previous forecasts. This was unexpected. Gasoline prices in the future are likely to be at or above GasBuddy's previous expectations. We released our 2022 fuel outlook back in late December. And so the Russia situation further enhances or will likely push prices higher than we had initially expected. Now, it's unknown how much this will do to the yearly national average. GasBuddy had forecast the yearly national average to be $3.41 a gallon. There is certainly additional upside risk now that GasBuddy's forecast may need to be revised in light of the situation. The next question, how soon will the effects of the situation be seen? Have gas prices already begun to rise, and is $4 a gallon just around the corner? Well, as I had mentioned, wholesale racks or racks where fuel tanker trucks fill up are already seeing an adjustment in prices. Gas stations likely may have been trying to anticipate the increase and dispatch fuel trucks earlier today, but effective at about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock Eastern time today, many of those thousands of racks that exist across the US will have a higher price, and Americans will quickly be paying that price. Now, gas stations usually struggle to raise gas prices as quickly as they pay them. Gas stations will be facing the higher cost immediately today, but it may be difficult for stations to immediately pass that along. And oftentimes that is why gas prices do not come down as quickly as they go up. That's invisible to consumers. Consumers don't often see that gas stations can't raise their prices as quickly as what they pay. So later tonight, you may start seeing some gas stations go up 5 or 10 cents. We've already seen the state of Michigan, which exhibits price cycling. We've already seen the prices in Michigan jump up to $3.49, partially because of the increase that we're seeing today. And some of those Great Lakes states, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Wisconsin, Illinois, they may see prices go up more dramatically tomorrow. The state of Florida may see prices go up tomorrow as well. These states exhibit price cycling. It makes predicting price movements a little bit easier. The rest of the country is likely to see smaller, more incremental increases over the next 1 to 2 weeks. But like I said, the impact at the pump could start and is starting later tonight as stations are paying those higher prices. $4 a gallon, that is definitely a possibility for the national average by April or May. Keep in mind, the Russia situation is not the only factor pushing oil and gasoline prices up. Motorists across the country are starting to see the switch to summer gasoline. Of course, summer gasoline is more costly, mandated by the EPA under the Clean Air Act. And so we continue to see that rollout occur. Not only that, but gasoline demand is likely starting to rebound as temperatures warm up. So Americans filling their tanks more often, combined with the transition to summer gasoline and refinery maintenance, could likely boost the national average to $4 a gallon in the next 4 to 6 weeks. For measure today, the national average stands at $3.55. It likely will soon hit $3.60 and $3.65 in the next couple of weeks before potentially hitting $4 a gallon in April. Now, we could also be talking about record high prices for the national average. The previous all-time record was $4.10 a gallon back in 2008. So it stands possible that indeed the national average could breach that all-time record high in May or potentially June of this year. Now, we've heard a lot about apocalyptic prices. Some people have heard about $6 or $7 gasoline. We are likely to see rather California's average, as I mentioned, hit the $5 mark. But I do not expect anywhere aside from California to see anything remotely close to $6. Now, even in California, the $6 mark is likely not to be hit in terms of an average unless the situation in Russia worsens dramatically. So $6 and $7 prices are very unlikely for nearly the entire population. There may be 1 or 2 stations that goes up to that price, maybe for some publicity, but most Americans will not see anywhere near those prices. The national average may hit $4, like I said, but $6 and $7 a gallon gasoline seems very much off the table at this point. Will the price of other goods and services be impacted by the rise in fuel prices? What other products, if any, should consumers expect to pay more for? Well, gasoline prices are going up. Diesel prices will go up, jet fuel prices will go up, and that means logistics, transporting goods, all of those prices will go up. Airline tickets could go up. The price of anything delivered via truck, whether it's goods to the grocery store, will see an increase. And services that rely on gasoline, whether that be things like Uber and Lyft and Instacart, you may see fuel surcharges tacked on those services in the coming days and weeks, as well as gas prices are likely to stay high. What was the White House's response to the situation? Will it take any action to help lower gas prices for Americans? Now, there is the possibility the president could again utilize the nation's strategic petroleum reserve. That was something that President Biden tapped back last fall. He released 50 million barrels of crude oil. That is something that he has already today said that he stands ready to do, aligning and talking to the International Energy Agency, the IEA, to potentially release a coordinated amount of oil. It's not known what amounts, if any. Last fall, like I said, President Biden released 50 million barrels. Unfortunately, those releases, or that specific release, had many strings attached. The president essentially loaning oil companies oil. So overall, the increase last fall did not do a whole lot. It's unknown again at this time if the president will utilize the SPR, but it would likely need to be a sizable release. Russia produces about 10 million barrels of oil per day. The U.S. Strategic Reserve contains about 582 million barrels of crude oil. When will we see prices go down? What would have to happen in order for prices to drop? Well, first and foremost, it's not yet known when we will see an organized drop at the pump. If the situation improves in Russia dramatically, we could see prices go down relatively quickly. If something were to happen, say overnight, oil prices could plummet on any development, any positive development in the situation. Beyond that, I don't see a normal decline in gas prices until later this summer or fall. Expect prices then to drop potentially anywhere from 10 to 20 cents, not a massive decline. And again, there's so many factors that could change. The pandemic could change between now and then. What would have to happen? Well, either a drop in global demand or an increase in global supply. Both of those appear somewhat unlikely, at least at this point. So for now, Americans will have to dig deeper. Appreciate everyone watching. I'm going to answer a few questions that have come through from the media. If you have a question, please identify yourself, your organization, and post those questions in the conversation running below. Seeing a question from KWCH News. Is there a reactionary measure that can be taken by producing nations outside of Russia and Ukraine that will strengthen supply and decrease the cost of oil globally? There is a potential that the U.S. could sign a new nuclear agreement with Iran. That's been discussed. It is on the table. Iran produces up to 2 million barrels of oil every day. That is a potential that could offset what is going on with Russia, could offset any disruption from Russia. So watch out. Again, these talks with Iran have been developing, and a new nuclear deal appears close, but it is not yet confirmed, and that could soften any blow from Russia. Kevin with WBTW in Myrtle Beach. Many people point out how does the gas price, or I should say how the gas price have already been increasing for months, even before Russia invaded. It's on the risk that this would happen. This is not out of the blue. Markets assess risk constantly based on what is happening globally. And so this was seen and has been seen as a risk for quite some time. So Americans have already been paying the increase at the pump because this was a well-documented potential. It's been no secret that Russia has been planning this. So it is factually accurate to say that Americans are already paying for this because of the potential, the high potential that this was going to happen. Does the attack on Ukraine increase the rate of price increases? Well, like I said, so far today, the price of oil started very strong this morning. It has fizzled out. It's going to vary day by day, headline by headline. The oil market is going to react to any new developments. So, you know, that it could change. I will say this in terms of the rate of increase. I don't expect that this will measure up to some of the past rates of increase that we've seen. A major hurricane would have more impact than what we have seen thus far in terms of how quickly this is going to happen. This is not something that is going to be a mass increase. In fact, this is going to be maybe pennies per gallon over the next couple of weeks outside of the Great Lakes. Now, in the Great Lakes, prices follow what we call price cycling. Prices in the Great Lakes may jump 20 to 30 cents. That's in line with what normally happens there, but the rate of increases should not yet be steep. That could change in the days and weeks ahead as we learn more. Yeah, it will generally, the gas prices will generally increase at a very similar rate to what we've already been seeing in the last few weeks. So I don't expect, again, any sticker shock. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and face a price that is just dramatically higher. That is not in the cards as of yet. Julie Anderson with Care TV. Minnesota has seen some of the highest average jumps in the country. What can we expect as we head into the summer? Well, the Great Lakes have had a above average supply of winter gasoline, and as that transition starts, many areas of the Great Lakes and the Midwest have been seeing pretty big discounts on what we'll call winter gasoline or non-summer gasoline. And as this transition begins, refineries must purge that fuel, and they generally offer sizable discounts. And unfortunately, that means that when the transition then starts, those discounts disappear. And so that can lead to a lot of whiplash in terms of big price increases. So that is probably one explanation. What can we expect as we head into the summer? And this holds true for virtually everyone on this call, is that gas prices will likely continue slowly increasing between now and perhaps Memorial Day, or when the transition to summer gasoline is complete. So unfortunately, not much relief in sight. Motorists can expect gas prices to continue rising over the next coming months. Not much beyond that. In terms of later this summer, we may see some price relief after the transition. July and August, depending on hurricane season, may see some relief, but it's hard to know beyond that. Madison Neal with WHNT News. In terms of specific price increases, I can't really get into that here. I can tell you that Alabama is one of the cheaper states in the nation for fuel prices. By and large, I would expect prices there, again, to increase about 5 to 10 cents over the next, we'll say, 2 weeks or so. Average prices in Alabama have been in the low threes. I don't yet know if some of those cheaper states, Alabama, Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, some of those traditionally low-price states may not hit that $4 a gallon this year. Alabama would be included in the list of states that may not hit that $4 a gallon mark this year. But again, the situation's unfolding, so that could change. Chris with WRAL. Talking about a station that was at 359 last night. How much more drivers in North Carolina could expect to pay at the pump compared to the national average? It's going to be very similar. North Carolina tends to be just above the national average, and I think prices in North Carolina will kind of rise with what we see nationally as well. So not too dissimilar between North Carolina and the national average. Both of them will likely see paces increase at the same time. Detroit News reporter, Michigan prices could go up to $3.49. Actually, that is happening today. Our price hike alert system detected stations starting to go up. So most Michiganders will see $3.49 in the hours ahead. A lot of that is already spread out, and that will likely spread very quickly in light of the fact that prices are up significantly. Stations will likely, almost all of them, go up to $3.49 by later today or tomorrow. So Michigan, that's happening now, here and now, and it will be very swift and quick. And that's what could happen in Indiana, Ohio, and other areas tomorrow. How could this affect Alaska's gas prices? KTVF, very similarly to what we're seeing nationally. Most of us are going to be in the same boat in terms of increases of 5 to 10 cents a gallon over the next week or so. And again, it could get much worse by the time Memorial Day rolls around. We will likely see the national average at or close to the $4 mark, and that would mean most states, including Alaska, which tends to be above average, will likely breach that $4 mark. Katie from Baton Rouge, in terms of the largest oil producers, yes, the U.S. is still the world's largest oil producer. Data that came out today showed the U.S. was producing 11.6 million barrels of oil. That's up from 10 million barrels at the height of the pandemic. but it's also still 1.3 million barrels per day lower than U.S. oil production prior to COVID. So we are seeing a recovery in U.S. oil production. In the last month, it has been very slow. The number of U.S. rigs continue to go up, but there are supply chain issues that are affecting drillers, including not enough fracking sand to boost oil production and shortages of steel that are utilized in drilling operations. So the supply chain issues are affecting even things like oil drilling, but there are many smaller oil producers, or I should say drillers, that are raising output. Tim from the Sacramento Bee, what are the prospects for gas tax relief at the state or federal level? Well, in California specifically, the governor has talked about not necessarily any tax relief, but delaying a tax increase that was set to hit California. So I wouldn't expect any relief in California since we're only talking about delaying a future tax increase. Now, at the federal level, there has been talk about congressional leaders and Democrats that potentially the government would or could waive the federal gas tax of 18.4 cents per gallon. Unfortunately, at high prices we're facing today, that wouldn't really amount to much beyond 5% for most Americans. It does not really have much support in terms of relief. And at the same time, that would cause the Highway Trust Fund to forego about $25 billion in gas tax revenues that it otherwise would collect. So I don't see that happening. I think the president will probably utilize the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in a more sizable way rather than forego gas tax revenue. But with that, unless there's any final questions here, again, to quickly review here, gas prices likely to go up here more dramatically if the situation escalates. The national average could reach $4 a gallon by Memorial Day. To defray the costs, of course, you're reminded, check out the GasBuddy app. If you're not shopping around, you should. And do check out the Pay with GasBuddy card that links to your checking account. That can save you up to 25 cents a gallon. So visit pay.gasbuddy.com or download the GasBuddy app for more information to sign up for that. With that, we'll be back with any pertinent updates in the weeks ahead, but thank you for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time.